Hello, everybody. Justin Stivers. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of the Stivers Show. Very excited about my guest today, friend Ruben Cruz with Crew Lions LLC. What's going on, man?
Justin, I'm glad to be here, my friend.
Good
I was waiting for the invite for a while. I thought the invite got lost in the mail.
Wow, you made it. You made it.
That's right.
You're big time now. This is you peaking, though. So
that's it. That's right. Yep. This is just the beginning, my friend. So
yeah, man. So, awesome. Well,
to be here.
Awesome to have you on. And so, obviously, well, not obviously to me, but CPA and profit first, which we'll talk a little bit about that. But so I always want to give you the opportunity, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive right in.
Sure. So who am I? What do I do? I pretty much like to bring it in. What value do I bring to the market, right? So I am a CPA, or I'm going to lead with that. But what makes us a little different is we focus more on the profitability of businesses, right? So we don't focus on the compliance side of it. We do, I should say, but the most of the focus is on the profitability, cash flow management, and then from there, as the business has become more profitable, what are we doing from a tax planning perspective to defer the taxes, reduce the taxes, or whatnot? So a little bit about what I'm doing now. A little bit my background is I come from the public accounting world. So I did a few years in audit, a few years in taxes, worked for a corporate company as a senior internal auditor, which kind of helped me. Using those skills has really helped me now working with the small businesses. Before, what I did was I would be the policeman. I would go into some of these bigger companies and look at them operational and financially and pretty much give recommendations to make it more leaner and more efficient. So I've taken that knowledge, started my company here, and that's what we do. That's what we focus on. We focus on the bottom line and helping businesses become more profitable.
What's kind of like your typical client business size and all that?
Sure. We typically work well with companies between 500,000 in revenue to up to 10 million in revenue. Typically because that's where they're getting into some of the more challenges of profitability, of taxes, of how to manage cash flow. Is actually pretty interesting. The SBA did a study over 28 to 29 million businesses, and they found that 23 million of those businesses within the first 3 to 5 years failed. What does that do? That means that, right, the odds are stacked against us as business owners, right? There's a big issue with cash flow. And typically that's what we find when companies are getting into that stage. They're hiring more, they're putting more infrastructure, more, they're building, they're looking into new products, more services, and they're not managing cash flow pretty well. So typically that's I would say the range of businesses we help out the most.
Is there a certain industry or that you work with?
Yeah, we like service industries, professionals. We do a lot of stuff for as far as, legal and whatnot, and medical as well.
Okay. Well, so CPA, kind of like attorney, not super exciting. And
Thanks, right? Thanks.
But you do something, that is exciting, or that I think is exciting. And I think that most, business owners listening and or watching would be interested in. And that's, what we were talking about before, what kind of, attracted me to you and your company is the idea of profit first. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I see you got the book in the background. A lot of, I think more and more people know about profit first. I think it's like, really like blown up over the past couple of years, but for those who don't, maybe, give a little intro as to what profit first is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have the books back there. This is my favorite author, Mike McCallowicz. Actually a friend of mine too. I got to meet him. But yeah, in a nutshell, profit first is a cash flow management system. And I'm going to lead in with this. We've all might have heard of axioms. And for those of you that don't know what axiom is, it's a belief that gets passed on from generation to generation, right? Probably the most common axiom in mankind is the world is flat. And we've all heard that axiom back in the day. People believed the world was freaking flat, which blows my mind until somebody questioned it. And back then, if they questioned it, they got stoned for believing that the world was not flat. The reason why I'm bringing this up is I believe that there's an axiom for businesses and for small business and how you run your business from a cash flow perspective, right? And that boils down to the formula of sales minus expenses equals profitability, right? You make money, you bring in the sales, you bring in the revenue, you pay out your workers, your contractors, W-2s, your rent, utilities, advertising, legal, accounting, etc. And then you're left with a net profit or a net loss. Whatever's left, you pay yourself as a business owner. That's what we're trained to know. Even me as a CPA, going through my schooling and the CPA certification, that's exactly what I was trained to know, right? And it's an axiom. It's logical and makes sense. For financials, for taxes, it makes sense. However, it sets us up for failure as business owners, right? So what Profit First is, bringing it full circle, it's a system to reverse the formula, to reverse the script, saying, we're going to start with revenue. We're going to start with sales, right? Then we're going to allocate some of those sales on a predetermined percentage. We're going to allocate some of those sales to your profit. So we're thinking about our profits first, and then what's left, we're going to use for operations, right? So it's making the business owners, making the business more efficient, innovative, more creative. How can we operate this business with what's left in operating expenses? So in a nutshell, that's what the book's about. I recommend it. Matter of fact, Justin, I'm such a firm believer in it. Anybody that wants to reach out to me, the first 10 people, I'll send them a copy of the book.
Very cool.
So yeah, anybody that wants to reach out, get my contact information, I'll send you a copy.
So when in that that scenario where we're going to put profit first, where does the owner or the business owner get paid out all of that? Because you're right, I'm assuming you
Sure.
get the income, you pay the expenses, what's left, bottom line is what goes to the owner or manager, business operator. Sometimes there's not enough, right? So,
Right.
Probably people would think, well, if I pay myself before, then there's no money to pay expenses. So
Yeah, we get that a lot actually. And logically that does make sense, right? Logically it makes sense. And I'm not saying once you make money, pay yourself, a full salary up front. We have to start somewhere, meaning that, let's say when you start working with somebody as a Profit First professional, whether it's myself or somebody else, we do an assessment on the business. We see where the cash is going now, and then we do an assessment to determine how can we make these small incremental changes over a period of time. Usually it's quarterly changes. So to answer your question, right, it might not make sense to pay yourself your full salary yet. You're only hurting your business. And we see a lot of times small business owners, you go into business just to say, all right, I want to buy that boat, right? I want to pay myself this crazy salary. I actually see it the other way around. You got to figure out how to build the business first, how to care for your team, right? Your employees first, then your customers, and then pay yourself as well, right? Because you're in this for the long-term game. But to bring it full circle, yeah, we allocate a percentage to your profit to the owner's compensation, and then everything else is allocated towards operating expenses.
So who needs to, I guess, implement Profit First? Like who needs to be doing this?
Yeah, I would say from startups to seasoned companies, right? Startups best because you're getting the foundation up front. You're learning how to manage your cash flow. You're learning how to have a profit mindset from the first sale that you have, how to allocate that money towards profit. A seasoned business as well, even if a business is profitable, they could benefit from Profit First. Why? I mean, we saw at the beginning of this year up until right now, unforeseen events, COVID-19, pandemic, right? Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but there's people out there, business owners that did not plan for something like this. Economy's doing great. They were doing great, but they did not plan for any unforeseen event. So what Profit First allows you to do is reserve for unforeseen events. You have a bucket for profits. And if this comes around, you have money put aside that you've accumulated for your owner's compensation and for your profitability, which has helped me, my firm, alone, be able to get through COVID and some of our clients that we implement Profit First with. So startup all the way to seasoned companies that are highly profitable, they could benefit from it.
So I'm just, it sounds like, is it as simple as, hey, bring in more money / expenses, which is probably like the traditional model that
right.
We all think like, hey, I just need to make more money and I need to lower my expenses. Right.
Yes and no. I like to say top line revenue is vanity, bottom line is sanity, right? Top line revenue is great. it doesn't mean anything if there's no bottom line revenue. One example is construction companies. They bring in a lot of top line revenue. After they pay out subcontractors, after they pay out other operating expenses, what are they left with? Some of them are left with a nice profit, some of them are not. And a lot of it gets eaten up through subcontractors. What are some ways we can become innovative? What are some ways we could become creative? And the companies that are going to be thriving and getting through COVID, they have the mindset right now. They've been managing their cash flow to get through something like this. And that's exactly what it is. So top line is great, but top line is vanity. Bottom line is sanity. What's the bottom line profitability of a business? That's what truly matters should matter to any business owner.
So when you're working with a company, when you're working with a business, how do you kind of work with them to get them going with this model? Because I think it makes a lot of sense, and obviously we don't have the time here to go through all the ins and outs of the book. Definitely recommend everybody at least get a copy of it and see how you can start implementing it. But I mean, is that one of the first things you do? Because again, there's a ton of CPAs. There's probably a very small amount or very few CPAs who are implementing this type of model. I would think. So right. if you come in, what are you guys doing in the beginning?
Yeah, well, first of all, I recommend everybody, whether they work with us or somebody else as a profit first professional, to get the book, read it. The book actually goes through an instant assessment, which is pretty good. It's not a full-blown profit assessment that we would do for them, but it's an instant assessment. It at least gives them a pulse on what the business is doing. When we do engage with working with the client, we go into more detail of the cash flows. We do a full-blown profit assessment. So we typically will request a profit and loss, trailing 12-month profit and loss, a balance sheet, pretty much the financials, possibly their prior year tax return, and a few other documents, just to get a good sense of what's going on with the business, where the cash is going. And then from there, we model it against highly efficient companies within their industry. So we could do side-by-side comparisons and say, all right, this is where you're at today. This is where highly efficient companies that are really crushing the game and managing their cash flow are at. This is where you compare. What do we do? What kind of strategies could we put into place to incrementally get you there? It's not going to be overnight, right? Because you can't make drastic changes overnight. Some of these require you to really sit down and think about your business processes and systems, right? What are some other systems we could implement that can make the cash flows more efficient, right? Last longer, that we get leaner as a company.
What's maybe one of the most common maybe mistakes, or something that you find yourself you kind of repeat conversation with a lot of these clients when you're going in and doing this assessment? Like, what's one of the, one or two things that you see is, you guys got to fix this?
Right. Probably the main thing is companies not knowing what's going on with the numbers. Whether they don't have good numbers to look at, or whether they don't understand how to interpret the numbers. And that's probably one big misconception, that working with a CPA, and by the way, I should probably mention this too, Justin, we work with clients that actually have CPAs to do their tax work at the end of the year. And we just supplement with the profit planning with their CPA. It's almost like a doctor, right? There's an ENT and there's a heart surgeon, different types of doctors, different types of CPAs out there. But typically it's not understanding the numbers. And the problem with financial statements, we find a lot, they might get financial statements from their CPA, but that's looking at the rear view mirror. What happened last month? What happened last quarter? What happened last year? And it doesn't give them ability to manage their cash flow going forward. And that's exactly what the profit first methodology does. It allows you to see what income came in, what sales came in, and how we're going to plan and allocate these monies, right? This cash into different buckets. So that's typically we see not understanding the numbers and not understanding or not having numbers to go off.
So you see a lot of businesses who just don't have anything until like the end of the year, and then they just get a final end of the year profit and loss statement.
That happens, or not being in tune with the numbers, right? There's 4 components of every business, and the finance side, and that is the component that pretty much comes last. and it doesn't hurt until something like COVID comes around. They focus on marketing, sales, fulfillment, operations. And when it comes to actually understanding the finances or whatnot, they're just relying on their CPA at the end of the year or twice a year or something along those lines. But they should have a regular routine of knowing what the health of the company finances.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a big one.
Or just, opening up their bank account, seeing, hey, great, we got money, or, oh, no, we don't have money, sort of thing. Operating just
Right.
based on what their checking account says.
And that's a good point, because that's like human behavior, right? Profit first is very behavioral. Even myself, if I want to see the health of my company, I'm going to look at my cash balance. I'm going to go to my online banking on my mobile phone, and I'm going to see how much cash I have in there. But what we find a lot too is businesses only operate with one or two bank accounts, right? Typically when that happens, if they have all their income coming into one bank account, they're just going to spend. It looks like they have money to spend. And the listeners will learn that if they read the book of Profit First, we believe in buckets, right? Having a income account and having other accounts have their own purpose. One's an operating expense account. So that account is used for any of your operating expenses, paying your employees, paying utilities, advertising, and whatnot. You're giving your money a purpose, and you're allocating a certain amount for it. So that's a good point you brought up.
Yeah, you think it's because they, business owners don't either, one, want to pay for a service, right? To because obviously, CPAs, bookkeeping, all of that costs money. So maybe they don't want to pay for a service, and or it's like you're maybe a little scared too. You're like, I don't really want to know. I don't really want to know exactly.
1,000%, man. Not even 100%, 1,000%. Reason being is we always find the way to be, spend the less money for the most return. But when you think about it, it never works that way, right? Like even with my diet, I noticed when I was a teenager, I used to eat crap food because it was cheap, right? So my little part-time job to get me by, I would just spend it on crap food, Taco Bell, whatever. But my output, my energy levels were crap. So that affected me in the classroom in college. That affected me in everything I do. What I'm trying to say is like even the food you eat, what's going to happen? You're going to be more energized. You're going to have more output. So just like in investing with a CPA, yes, it's money up front, but what's that ROI? Everything has an ROI to it. And if it doesn't, you cancel that service right away. So yeah, I mean, I think that is a big thing that business owners worry about, cost. And then really not wanting to know reality. It hurts. Finances is very sensitive. They don't want to really know what's going on with their finances.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, I know you started and are starting, something new called Profit Owners, right? What's
That's right.
that?
Yeah, man, I'm very excited about this. Hopefully, we plan on having it rolled out Q4 this year. Profit Owners is a business of helping business owners become a profit owner. And is essentially what it's called, right? It's evolving your mindset. It's evolving your business. Right now we're in business and we think that, we're running an operation, we're paying our employees, but we don't think about our profitability. So it's what I want to be able to do is touch more people, and Profit Owners is going to be providing group sessions and as well as one-on-one, and really implementing the profit planning strategies, even for businesses that are profitable right now, helping them with their cash flow. That way they could become more profitable, pay off debts faster, get prepared for any unforeseen events like COVID or whatever is down the road that we don't know about. But that's what Profit Owners is about. It's going to be catering more towards the profit planning on a group session and a one-on-one session. So I'm really excited about that. Going to be here soon to come. So I'm working on it.
Very cool, man. Well, what are, kind of closing out, what are a couple of things that you could give the people watching, listening, some action items, business owners that they can kind of, implement today?
Sure. I would say some of the things, we're all CEOs of our business, right? If you're a business owner, you're a CEO, you're a president. We all get very, very, very spread thin. We're thinking about marketing, we're thinking about sales, we're thinking about our product, service, operations, and then there's admin related stuff. There's only so much energy that we could give to those four components: sales, marketing, sales, fulfillment, admin. I mean, so much energy. I would say one of the big things is focusing on what's your best use of time. It might not be the finance. It might be marketing and sales. It might be fulfillment. Once you figure out that best use of time, put the right people in place to manage the other areas, right? And what we do a lot with our clients is we fulfill the finance side. We work with them. We're we are arm's length extension of management. So we have regular conversations. That way it gives them confidence to be able to do everything else, right? So one thing is best use of time, figuring that out. The other thing is look at your finances. Even if it hurts, start somewhere. Get engaged with your CPA. If you don't ask, they're not going to help you out. We get so busy with end of the year taxes or whatnot. There's only so many people we can serve. So you have to be that squeaky wheel, right? Understanding what's going on and getting in touch with your CPA.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we wear so many different hats all the time. We kind of get accustomed to it. And in the beginning, it's about, you know, for most of us, it's about bootstrapping and trying to, save as much money as we can. And we kind of get in that habit of, well, we can do it ourselves. We can do it better. For most of us in finance, I think most of us would agree we probably can't do it much better in the finance realm. But I think the sooner that you're able to, like you said, recognize that this is maybe not your strength, if you can bring in a partner, delegate that out, hire somebody else to do it for you. I think it's probably tough because a lot of business owners don't necessarily see the tangible value of knowing their numbers. And so what I like, kind of what I'm hearing from you is that, we're not just, hey, pay us X amount of dollars, here's a report, this is what you did last year, which is like, okay, yeah, that is helpful because I got to pay taxes and no, but wouldn't it be nice if I would have known this 12 months ago where I was at, and then we could have come up with a plan to kind of fix it, as opposed to most business owners, it's like, you ask them, well, how much do you want to make, or what do you want to do? And the answer is basically more. Well, okay, yeah, we all want to make more. But if you don't know where you're at, what does more look like? It's kind of like you're chasing after a target that you don't even know what the target is.
What gets measured gets managed, right? And that's what it boils down to. And that's a good point too. I mean, just to add this one other thing, it's tax prep is not tax planning. This big misconception. Having that regular conversation, knowing what is to come in the future, how much income you're going to be bringing in. And that's more on the tax side of things. That's not even internal reporting and investing back in your business. That's more tax side. But yeah, you're right. Knowing what's going on, that way you can manage it.
Something I was thinking, maybe this is the last question, maybe something I was thinking is, what about for people who aren't necessarily running a business themselves, and they're just an employee? I don't know the answer. Does profit first come into play for just, the average, worker?
Profit first actually works for better, I would say. No, I shouldn't say better. It works automatically sometimes for the regular W-2 employee, and they're not even aware of it. Reason being, you're probably asking, what? That doesn't make sense, but it does. Think about it. They get a W-2. Before they receive that deposit from their W-2, most of the time, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the time, right? Most of the time, some of that gross W-2 salary or wage gets contributed into a 401k. So they're paying themselves first in their retirement before they're taking that net income. Then they're getting the net income and they're living off of that net income, right? They're adjusting their lifestyle to be able to live within that net income when it comes to how much they can afford on a house, how much they can afford on a car. So it's automatically kind of happening. Unfortunately, as business owners, that doesn't happen. I mean, yes, we do have W-2 shareholders and whatnot. So some of that is happening there. But from a profitability standpoint, from an everyday cash flow management, that's not really happening all the time.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Well, yeah. Ruben, man, appreciate it, brother. How can people find you, get in contact with you, and if they want to learn more or have an assessment done or anything like that, what's kind of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. They could reach out. They could call the office 813-315-8848. We'll love to, if they call, we'll love to send them a copy of Profit First. They could send me an email, personal email, ruben@crulliance.com. RubenCrulliance.com. yeah, they can reach us there. Also, our website, careeralliance.com. They can reach out and schedule an appointment as well. Any way I can help, I'm all about giving stuff away. I want to eradicate entrepreneur poverty, just like Mike Michalowicz mentioned. So, or go through Justin. Find Justin and get my contact information from Justin. So
awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
You got it, man. Talk soon.
Yes.
All right.